Hello and welcome to my latest weekly video news from Madison's. Well, Zoopla came out with their house buying index report last week, and a really interesting content in there all around first-time buyers. So first-time buyers, obviously the lifeblood of the property market. They are the ones that keep the chains rolling through, heavily supported by the Bank of Mum and Dad, one in five, the fifth biggest lender, the Bank of Mum and Dad now, and giving their children help with deposits. But they struggled a bit during the pandemic, first-time buyers struggled to get on the property ladder. But last year, or for the last 12 months, they have been the biggest proportion of the house buyers. So if you're looking at second steppers or downsizers or investor buyers, first-time buyers, 34% of the market of the property sales transactions was governed by first-time buyers. Now that might surprise you because you might be thinking, well, hang on a minute, mortgage rates are rising. It's tricky for first-time buyers. They tend to need a higher mortgage than other buyers. So how come they are now being such a strong dominant part of the market? And the reality is the rental crisis that's going on. So there's a real challenge for first-time buyers at the moment to find a rental and then to be able to afford it. And often their rental payments far exceed what their mortgage would be, even with the rate rises that we've seen lately. And of course it was announced over the weekend that 100% mortgages are coming back to the market. You have to evidence that you were paying a rent at that level or above for I think more than 2 years, but then you can get 100% mortgage, because that's the biggest challenge that first-time buyers face, is getting that deposit together and also showing that they have the income to support a mortgage. So if you look at this chart, I found that was fascinating actually. So this is the household income of first-time buyers to buy a 2 and 3 bedroom home, and look at that. In London you have to be earning, what is that, I reckon about 118,000 a year to be able to buy a 3-bedroom home at the moment. In 2020, that little lilac dot on that first chart shows that it was just above 100,000. So that really shows how it's rocketed up. And the 2-bedroom home, the graph next to it, the southeast where we sit, look at that, it's about 85,000, I reckon, to be able to buy a 3-bedroom home is the income that a first-time buyer needs. And that dot there showing that pre-pandemic it sat closer to sort of low 70,000. So really interesting to see how much income a first-time buyer still needs to be able to get onto the property ladder, because they just don't have so much deposit. First-time buyers, I mean, we deal with them quite a bit. We tend to sell more upper end of the market, so we often don't have the stock that attracts them. And they're great in a way. The biggest challenge that we faced during the pandemic with the first-time buyer market was that prices were always going above asking price. So you tend to be able to achieve 104% of asking price on average. And for first-time buyers, that's a real challenge for us, because we're looking at their affordability and they've saved up X for a deposit and they're banking on a 90% mortgage. And if then that property is downvalued, the bank will simply lend less, which means they just can't afford it. So they, real difficulty there with us when we were looking at the attractiveness in that very competitive market of a first-time buyer against someone who is bringing along a lot of equity, even from a related sale. Because the market was so booming, everything was selling anyway, and it was actually less risk to have a related sale than to be a first-time buyer. So really unusual turn there that you saw during the pandemic, but great to see that they are now getting back onto the property ladder. And we'll have to wait to see if it continues over this year, but really good to keep that flow of stock going through. I've got some nice properties for first-time buyers on my books at the moment. We've got a lovely collection of flats at Boyne Park, 2 and 3 bedroom flats starting at 245,000. The thing that will really attract first-time buyers to this is they shouldn't need any work doing to them. So first-time buyers often get freaked out by bad surveys and lots of work needed. These ones, they should be in pretty good condition and should be able to give you quite easy living. But I've also got a really lovely house, 3-bedroom house, if that's what you're after, which we mentioned, over on the Rotherfield, on the outskirts of sort of Crowborough Way, for 399,000. So that's a really, really nice property, beautifully presented, lovely little garden, off-road parking, a garage. It's a real box ticker, that one. And then back in the town, Avon Street, this really lovely end of terrace property, which is again presented in beautiful condition, and that's on a guide price of 400,000. So lots to attract first-time buyers. Do give us a call if any of those are of interest. Well, the coronation weekend last week, wasn't it great? And this week we have the Tunbridge Wells Literary Festival coming. There's a whole host of events going on, from the Assembly Halls, the Amelia Scott, the Royal Victoria Place, the Forum and One Warwick Park. You've got Sir Michael Parkinson, Sheila Hancock, Michael Rosen, really great authors there to pull in some crowds. So do head onto the website and look at the full details. I hope you have a great week, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Bye-bye.